Quantum of Solace was directed by Mark Forster and is the sequel to Casino Royale from 2006. So after the events of Casino Royale, Bond sets out on a path of revenge, looking for the crime organization that ultimately killed Vesper. Welcome back to my No Time to Die series leading up to that film coming out in April. I'm reviewing every single Daniel Craig James Bond movie to date, from Casino Royale to Spectre, and now we're on Quantum of Solace. This is considered the worst of the 4 Daniel Craig James Bond films we've been given thus far, and rightfully so. Quantum of Solace is a rushed film that has some bad writing and should not have come out as soon as it did. It came out only 2 years after the release of Casino Royale. This movie was pumped out so fast. But I will say the title, Quantum of Solace, is the coolest of the 5 Daniel Craig James Bond film titles. That's just my opinion, it just sounds super cool. Let's begin my review of Quantum of Solace with the opening action sequence, which, by the way, there is no gun barrel at the beginning of this movie, which makes no sense. Anyhow, whatever, this opening action sequence is kind of a mess. The editing is anything but comprehensible. It's very difficult to figure out what's going on in this action sequence, and that goes for pretty much all of the action sequences in Quantum of Solace. There is not a single action sequence, in my opinion, in Quantum of Solace that is well edited, and therefore it is almost impossible to tell what's going on in all of them. There's also no long action sequence. They're all pretty short, and you have this string of short action sequences that are all pretty poorly edited. I don't get the point of that at all. This is a James Bond movie after all. There should be a couple of epic action sequences that last longer than 5 minutes, but that is not the case in Quantum of Solace. I have no idea what Mark Forster or anybody else working on this film was thinking. Okay, let's move on to the film's main song, Another Way to Die by Alicia Keys and Jack White. A lot of people hate this song. I am half and half with this film's main song. I like the instrumentals, but the vocals in this song sound very off-key. I think Alicia Keys is a very capable and good singer, but in this song, whatever they did post-production-wise, it does not sound right. The instrumentals sound good, but her vocals, and if Jack White sung too, I don't know if he did, but it does not sound very good. One thing I absolutely can praise about Quantum of Solace, though, are the performances. Daniel Craig coming back to reprise his role as James Bond is fantastic once again. He was great in Casino Royale. He is great in this movie. Feels like Bond. Never does he feel any different than he did in the first movie. I love him as a character still in this movie, as well as some of the other performances given in this film, like Olga Kurylenko, who plays this film's main Bond girl, and I think she is also very good in the movie, though she's not in the movie as much as I would have liked her to be. So after the opening action sequence and the film's main song are done, we then are given a couple of other action sequences in a row. And again, the editing is not great, but I do like the style in this movie, as I do with all the James Bond films. The action does have a style behind it, and they had an idea of how they wanted to make the action in this movie look, and it does look pretty good in this movie. The set pieces are there in Quantum of Solace. I love high-octane car chases. I love when 2 guys are hanging from strings and trying to grab the gun before the other guy can kill them first. I love boat chases. I love plane chases. I love explosions. There are good set pieces in this movie for the action, but they never go above and beyond with the action in Quantum of Solace. They keep it very minimal in this movie, and I don't know why. I also like how Quantum of Solace connects directly to Casino Royale. At the beginning of this movie, it takes place right after the events of Casino Royale. There are a lot of things that are connected between the two in this movie, and I did appreciate that. It's not like Quantum of Solace ignores everything that happened in Casino Royale. This is a movie that ends all the storylines from Casino Royale. James Bond then travels around a bit, and a few other action sequences take place, and then we are introduced to this film's main villain, Dominic Green. And this guy is probably the worst of the James Bond villains that at least I can tell. He doesn't look scary. He's not overbearing. He just looks like a fine gentleman. Very average and ordinary. There's nothing scary about the guy. But look at the other villains in the Daniel Craig Bond films. Even Rami Malek, who has yet to make his debut, looks pretty creepy in the trailer for No Time to Die. And each of the Bond villains we've been given thus far have more to them than just the fact that they're evil and they want money and they want to rule a country. That's pretty much all Dominic Green is. He doesn't have a backstory in the movie. They just throw him on the screen and say, yeah, just act evil. You're very greedy. You want to take things away from people and kill them. That's all he is. We also have a ton of random characters in this film that did not need to be there. And when they were there in the movie, they were barely utilized. Like, why was David Harbour even bothered being casted in this film? He was in the movie for what? 3 to 5 minutes? That's it? A talent like David Harbour? You cast him for a movie at the caliber of a James Bond film and he's barely in the movie? What the heck is that about? And also characters like Felix, Mathis, Mr. White, and Fields are in this film. And for what purpose? They're all in the movie for what? 5 or so minutes, just like David Harbour's character? I don't see the point. None of them really have much to do. I feel like they're just there to boost the casting up a little bit to make people go see this movie back in 2008. Did I mention that the story is kind of convoluted too? With all of these characters, the movie becomes very confusing, and at the same time, you begin wondering what exactly the main story is. Where is this movie going? How will we get to the bottom of this movie? I don't really get the point in having all these characters and so many different subplots and not really going anywhere with it until the very end. We do have an interaction early on between James Bond and Camille, but that is short-lived. Later on, though, they meet up again and they try to take down Dominic Green at this hotel in the middle of the desert. I do want to talk about Olga Kurylenko's Bond girl in this film. She should have been in this movie so much more, and you can place her with the other random characters in this movie. There's so many of them. And she's the main Bond girl, but for some reason she's barely in the movie. I know we get a few scenes that give us a background on her character, but that's it. She's only in the movie for about 15 to 20 minutes max. By the time we get to the film's finale with another action sequence, you think it's going to pay off with huge epic proportions, but nah, it's only about 5 minutes long. Yes, there's a lot of explosions. There are some cool moments. James Bond fighting Dominic Green and Camille fighting against the Bolivian general. And that's about it. This action sequence for a finale is just way too short. It's only about 5 minutes long, and that's all we get. Plus, James Bond disposes of all the bad guys in a matter of seconds. Then we just have him fighting against Dominic Green for about 2-3 minutes, and that's it. That's the finale of this movie. It could have been so much more, a lot longer. At least give us more guys for James Bond to kill in this hotel. By now, it's pretty obvious what one of my main problems with Quantum of Solace is. The movie is just too short. It's only an hour and 47 minutes, having so many characters in the film with a ton of action sequences, which are very short as well. Having all of this just does not work because the movie is too short to develop any of it. Now, that does not mean Quantum of Solace does not entertain me at all. There are some action sequences as well as character moments that I do like a lot in this movie, but in the big picture, with Quantum of Solace, it was a missed opportunity. This movie could have been so much better than it was. I also like how this film wraps up. It closes out the Casino Royale storylines very well, and it's a nice little fade to black where we finally get the gun barrel. And that's my review of Quantum of Solace. This movie could have been so much more than it turned out to be, considering that it was the sequel to Casino Royale, which is a great movie, but I think Quantum of Solace is kind of underwhelming. Did you guys know that this movie actually grossed more money in 2008 than Iron Man? That is crazy to me. I'm giving Quantum of Solace a 53%. Knowing what we know now, though, from films like Spectre in 2015, Quantum of Solace kind of feels like a very minor rendition of that movie. And now, thinking about it, I don't know why Quantum of Solace was even made to begin with. It's just really disappointing. Alright, for those of you who liked or disliked Quantum of Solace in 2008, be sure to let me down below in the comment section what your thoughts are of it. Next up, I am finally doing my review for Warrior. I cannot wait to review that movie for all of you guys. If you're new to my channel, click the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Thank you all so much for watching this video, and I hope you all have a fantastic day.